Can you see me? Can you see me,
Yep.
Brent?
Oh, sorry. There you are.
Oh,
The camera skipped over to my
oh,
there.
sorry.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host. The show is also known as PWD Allies Podcast. As usual, check it out on your favorite app, wherever you find it best suited for you to listen to when you're on the go and you just don't have time to watch the actual live broadcast or the pre-recorded by the time you watch it. So definitely check it out. I really encourage people to subscribe to the content. If you like the content that we view on a regular basis, please subscribe to the channel here because it really makes a big difference in our viewership and keeps you up to date on all the current shows that we put out. And definitely over the summertime, I got a programming announcement to make too. That over the summer, Brent's going to be taking just a little bit of time off, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time off. But while I am taking some time off, I'm going to be doing some breaking with Brent segments. I'm going to be doing some coffee time, just maybe going and enjoying the nature in the park and just sitting and reflecting on the world today and just taking in nature. Who knows where I'll be popping up during the month of some parts of the month of August. So it'd be just for maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in August. Not a big time, and
And it's been a while since you've done the coffee time, so I'm actually looking forward to that one. And
yeah,
and we should say, I mean, the only way you get to catch all of those extra fun videos is to make sure that you subscribe because you know, we put out a lot of stuff like, and it's been a while even for me. Like I used to put out stuff with Jake all the time, like the gaming videos and stuff too, but
mhm,
I'm slowing down as well. But it's summertime, right? So things are slow anyway. So that's just how it is.
exactly. And over the summertime, I mean, there's a lot of people. They're hard to get on as guests right now, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that in the fall we're going to have a lot of people requesting to come on, and that's great. If you want to come on as a guest, please reach
I
out
think
to myself.
the panel thing was good to start too again in the fall. I think you had a lot more interaction, even though there's a challenge with having more than one person on. Um, you get a lot of interaction when there's two or three people on, as well as you, Brent, because then you're getting a lot more back and forth. It's a bit more like a ping pong championship than a ping pong game, right? So I do understand the challenges of having there's cons and pros to both, but
Yeah.
I found I was more alert during when I would watch back at the when you guys had the panel the
Mhm,
panel approach
mhm.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, both are good and bad, but
We definitely will be doing a revamp on that too. So stay tuned, everyone, on the panel that we were having before the summer. And today I have my guest, Alun Davies, F Stop Pictures, as known on Twitter. Some people call it X. I still call it Twitter because that's what we know Twitter as. Elon may disagree with me on that, but I'm sorry, Elon. It's still Twitter. It's still Twitter, right? So, Alan, thanks very much for joining me today. Alan is going to be talking about his injury and being disabled at the same time. Definitely, I'm really hoping, Alan, that you can get some recovery happening here for your shoulder. You can maybe tell us about what happened. What happened to you?
June 14th, I came off the ferry at 10 p.m. So it was just getting dark. It was still some daylight when I left the island, but it's only a 15-minute run from downtown to Wolf Island. It's pretty quick, 15, 20 minutes outside. Anyway, I got back and there's a yellow walkway, and I don't usually pay attention to it. When I come off the ferry, I come off where the cars would come off, and I make a beeline left towards the downtown sidewalk park because the whole ferry area they're developing. I think they're putting in a new waiting room and stuff. There's some construction going on. So they've got this big cinder block, waist high cinder blocks blocking off sections of the docking area. So there's obviously some heavy construction going on. I don't know whether they're putting a condo right on the water or not. Who knows? Anyway, I came off the ferry, and this time I guess maybe one of the guys guided me onto the yellow walkway, and I couldn't tell whether what the difference between where the lip was and the surface. It all looked like one surface, and I walked to what I thought was the end of the walkway. I had both my cameras on because and my tripod was in my one hand, and so I had one camera on my neck, my backpack on, and one camera in my hand, and the tripod in my left hand. And I turned, and my foot got caught on the lip, which actually is hollow, except for a cap that is the same color as the walkway. And I went face down and dislocated my shoulder because my bag was so heavy that when I landed, the impact pushed my shoulder back, and that's what dislocated my shoulder.
Oh,
And
wow.
a bunch of people came over. It was excruciating painful because I couldn't hold my hand out in any way that didn't hurt. Um, they called in the ambulance. The EMTs got me to the general hospital pretty quick. They had to get some pretty heavy drugs in me pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my shoulder was located pretty quickly, and I was X-rayed. They put a sling on me and sent me home. That was about what 2 a.m. Um, I had asked someone in my building to come and meet me because I had all my camera gear. They didn't, but that's a different story. Um, so I got myself home. It was about a 25-minute, 30-minute hike with an arm in a sling and a backpack full of camera gear on my right shoulder.
Yeah.
So the night of having it's the hospital system is something else.
They didn't keep you in
So
the
though
hospital then. No, they just
I
sent you.
I didn't have to wait so much as it was just painful because they had to actually uh, they put an IV in me and they had to actually put load me up with fentanyl because
Yeah.
the pain was so intense. So
Well, I just wanted to
uh,
stop you there a little bit, Alan,
yeah,
because you know,
if I'm skimming
for
over anything, ask away.
for for people that don't know, um, you and I both have cerebral palsy, and I know you, Brent, always talk about, that disabilities don't end at 65, right? And I mean,
That's
it
right.
really bears repeating because the fact of the matter, like, I think people just assume that, if you have a disability and you get old, like you get 65, it's just like, oh, well, you're just a little bit more everybody gets disabled once they get 65, so what's the big deal? But the big deal is you already have a pre-existing disability,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you're aging, and so like it's a lot worse, like having a
Amplifies more.
disability and then an injury or something. Like, I mean, you and I are a
Oh
bit
yeah,
you and
it can
I
happen
are.
to anyone.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, just before you start again, Alan, is that you and I are a bit like twins, because
Yeah.
not only do you and I both have cerebral palsy, but like, like about a year and a half ago, of course, I fell and I broke my hip, and I
Oh,
mean, it was my right hip, and so, and ever since then, like, it's been a real adjustment for me. It's like having an injury.
I was actually going to ask you about that because I I buggered up my knee when I was in my teens. Um,
Mm,
I I thought I was Teflon, and I was on my sailboat, and he asked me to go up and get the line. One of the lines, he thought we need when we were undocking to go to the next place. We left the bow dock line on the cleat,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and he was worried that the line, even though it was floatable, even though our lines floated, marine lines, you can buy them rope that floats. He was worried it would go under the keel and into the prop, and we
Hmm.
would get keel wrapped. And it was pretty. The weather was pretty nasty. So I went up there, and the boom hit me on the chest and pushed me off. And I thought I can get back on the boat. And I tried to push my body forward, and instead I caught my knee on the edge of the boat and went in the drink anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so my knee swelled up like an American football. um, and thankfully we were going to a major destination that had a hospital, and my dad had. But I know what I know now that once, even though my knee has healed, I'll never be able to play drums again because I was actually a pretty good drummer by that point. Um, but my knee is like a human thermometer, barometer.
Yeah.
And when the weather changes, boy, do I know it before I go
Oh
outside.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was going to ask, did you discover that you developed a human barometer when you damaged your hip?
Hmm.
Because I'm feeling it
Yeah.
with my
I mean,
shoulder. I'm feeling it with my shoulder.
yeah, when it gets colder, when it gets colder, I notice it aches more. Plus, if I sleep on it a bit too long, it aches more too. Um, but that's another little thing I was going to add as well as, I mean, I'm sure you can say the same thing, Brent. When you're born with a disability, like all three of us are, like some disabilities are acquired, but when you're basically born with a disability, you have a long time to get used to it. Like there's a big on ramp, right? So over the years, you get used to it, and you think, well, okay, my legs don't work as good as everybody else's, but so what? Like you just get used to it. But the thing is that as you age, and if you are unfortunate enough to get an injury, that adds a whole other wrinkle that you're not expecting because you have your whole life before where you're so used to dealing with, like,
Yeah,
I can say for example, like in my case, like I have fallen a lot in my 56 years of life. I have fallen a lot, but the trick is I got really good at knowing how to fall well,
Hmm.
but it only takes one bad fall, and mine was a year and a half ago. It only takes one bad fall where something breaks, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get used to a disability, but it's another whole other thing to get another layer on top of that, and it just kind of screws everything up, right? And
Well, that's what
well, you
happened to
don't.
me. That's what happened to me is I used to fall all the time. Like my balance would be off when I was a kid, and as I got older, I just thought, okay, well, it's just the way it is. And then I kept falling. I'd ride my bike, and I'd fall off my bike, and of course, I'd learned how to turn, and I knew I was going to fall, and so I would actually shift the bike over, and I'd fall on a certain way, and of course, it scraped my hands and my knees, and ouch, like yeah, it rashes all over. And I just got up and said, well, you know what? Well, that was a good fall.
I was
And so and when I did that, I kept falling. But then there was a time where I fell, and I was in high school at the time, and I was doing a paper route, and I took a fall, and I thought, okay, well, it was one of those things, and I went to go and get up, and I'm like, ow, like my knee was really hurting. And I thought, okay, like, Brent, just, you know what, just, don't be a wimp, get over it, just get up and push yourself. You can do this. And I went to
But
try
we're
and get,
not
and I,
snowflakes.
yeah, and I got up, and I was just like, oh, like my knee was like, she was all red, and it kept paining more and more. And so I ended up walking my bike back. I couldn't even finish my route. My mom actually had to finish my paper route because I was in so much pain. She goes, "What's wrong with you?" And "Why are you not done your route?" And she goes, "Oh my God, look at your knee, it's swelling." So I had to actually, go to the doctor, And anyway, it is what it is, right? So then I took another fall again, and one time I was doing a track and field in school, and I twisted it, and then like I fell, I was running, and I pushed myself too much, and I took a corner too sharp around this track, and down I went, and I hit this gravel area on the side, and on the track I went flying off, and right on a bang, and it swelled. I had crutches. I didn't break anything, but I had little crutches, and it's like I didn't want to take things for granted. I thought,
I
wow, like I
I,
guess I
I
couldn't
think
do as
of
much.
I think of having a disability as one of those you see those old Datsun 240Zs or an old Mustang from the 70s, and you see
Mhm.
the and I love when I see these stickers. It says there's no airbags. We die like real men. And I think that's a lot that really sums up having a disability because a lot of people around us will panic more than we will.
Mhm.
Like, have you ever seen a film? I used to like I'd bang myself up when I was on my
Oh
BMX
yeah.
Oh,
or
me
if I
too.
was on my dirt bike, and I'd
Yeah.
come home and there would be big blood everywhere or a big cut
Mhm.
or a gouge,
Yeah.
and my mom would be like losing her marbles. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when I was like, okay, this hurts, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of times it was like that. There's no airbags. Die like a real man kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's this you develop this like in high school. I never reflect. In fact, I tried to deflect away from my disability as
Yeah.
much as possible. I
Same
joined the
here. Yeah.
wrestling team. I
I
did
hear
things that people were telling me like, "You're disabled. You can't do this."
that.
Like I'd
Mhm.
have doctors going, "Why are you on the wrestling team?" I'm like, "Why am I not on the wrestling team?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for
And
everyone that's
like what?
joining us today, I have Alun Davies joining me today and talking about his injury and disabilities. And we're going over different times of our lives that different injuries can affect your disability at any time. And we reflected on that disabilities don't end at age 65. And, government policies state that you lose your disability income when you turn 65, and but disabilities don't go away, so we need to have that changed, and we can reflect on a little bit of that as the in our podcast today.
One of the
um
things I really wanted to reflect on is the fact that okay, if a regular person trips and falls on the ice,
yeah.
and they can get compensation pretty easy, sure the city lawyers will fight and try and drag it out as many years as they can, but generally the most person will get some kind of compensation, whether it's $5,000, $10,000, whatever, depending on the severity of the fall. When you come to a disability, they almost blame you like it's your fault you fell. and
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lawyers are going like I've had 6 lawyers tell me I don't see a case here. Yeah, you fell, and there could be some incompetent, what do they call it, when the other
Oh,
party's at fault. Um, they
Negligence.
negligent.
negligence. He's
Yeah.
but the lawyer. I said to the lawyer yesterday on the phone that this is the 6th one, and I've said, isn't there any rights for someone that has a disability that a situation like that already puts him in further danger? Like I told him I could have broke my neck.
Hmm.
And he said, yeah, they don't care. And I think this is really
Wow.
where it comes into the fact that not only are not only are we disabled, but we're already facing an ableist society where the lawyers are going, well, he's disabled. He must have tripped. It's his fault for
Yeah.
falling.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
we
why
see
I'm not
that.
getting. I can't get any compensation because
Yeah.
no one
And we
will.
see that with a broader conversation too, just like with poverty, like with disability poverty. Well, it's
Yep.
your fault that you're in poverty.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with legislated poverty
Right or wrong. It's
or
like
anything like that.
it's like my
it's our
workers
fault
saying.
that yeah.
It's like my workers saying, well, if you don't find a cheaper place to live, we're going to have to put your benefits on hold until you find something cheaper. So I'm being punished for being poor.
Yeah, it's not your
Yeah.
Nice.
it's not
Yeah.
your fault at all.
Like,
It's the system
and
how
it's like,
it's
But
I wanted to I
yeah, go
wanted to
ahead, Neil.
touch on I wanted to touch on like the difficulties that you're having, the fact that you're a single guy and you're having trouble with your doing meals and laundry and things like that, and kind of what a struggle that is for you now. Like
Um,
I was saying, like when you have a disability, you're used to having the disability for so long, and then an injury on top of that adds another wrinkle, and talk about all those other wrinkles now that you're having difficulty with your meal preparation,
Yeah.
difficulty with
Well, I mean, it's
cleaning laundry, all
I'm
of that
now
stuff.
I'm now faced with a reality that I have to navigate, and I didn't anticipate on navigating. I've got to go use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Diabetes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brent and I can talk amongst
yeah.
ourselves
Yeah.
for a while.
So as Alan will be back momentarily, just for our listeners on the podcast, and where we left off is all about how the system is designed provincially and federally. It's the ping pong ball back and forth, as Alan has described to our listeners and to anyone watching live right now, what he's gone through and how this society is ableist. And I can reflect on a recent call-in show. Just on the just the other day,
Hmm.
like when I called into CKNW, they had the premier of British Columbia that was on, and he was taking phone calls, and that was great. That was great that he took calls, and so I called in, and you could ask a question and a respectful question, and I mentioned, well, like PWD rates weren't raised this year. I got a 3.5% increase in my rent. My one of my managers said, well, why didn't you get a rate increase this year? I mean, we gave you a rate increase, and I said, I don't know. And so I asked the premier of British Columbia that question is why? Like the manager wants to know why didn't you get a rate increase this year? We got a rate increase of $125 last year, but it only went to some PWD. Said there was a
I,
zero increase in
don't
this
even
year's
get me
budget.
started on
And
this.
when there was a $0 increase, again, like people with the disabilities, I mean, no fault of their own. They were born with it, or they acquire disabilities as they go through life. No fault of their own. They could get into a car accident. Anything can happen. They can either end up on provincial assistance,
See,
or they could end
here's
up
what I
on maybe through their insurance company as disabled. But I mean, whatever the case is, the response from the premier was, well, it's more focused about a job. Well, I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, like PWD had, maybe they had jobs, maybe they can't do those jobs any longer. So to me, it's like a job is not always the case to solve the problem. I mean, people
Yeah.
have a job, but maybe they lost at no fault of their own.
And
Maybe,
and and I just wanted to stop you there briefly
sure,
there, Brent, because
yeah,
the one, like I have a trigger word. I have a really bad trigger word, and I shared that with you the other day. Uh, I have this trigger word, and it's wraparound supports.
right, yes.
Wraparound supports. Every time I hear that
Oh,
wraparound supports, you
it
hear
just makes me boil.
You hear David Eby say it. You hear Sheila Malcolm say it. Like they all say it. Wraparound supports. Our government is providing wraparound supports, and every time they say it, like they should take a like it should be a drinking game where they they take a shot of tequila or something every time they say it, because if they would all be like pissed drunk, in like about 2 minutes,
Mhm.
because they say it and it just pisses me off. Like that's the one trigger word that just pisses me off, because every time they say like wraparound supports, I'm thinking to myself, like, you're invalidating, thanks to thanks to legislative poverty,
Mhm.
all
Well,
these
I
governments.
almost go.
one part that
I
stood out in the conversation was that if I didn't know the information about new legislation, then I should know. And I
Yeah,
thought, like, and I had no more words to say in the conversation. I know I would have been probably given another 30
yeah,
more seconds to
it was
continue.
kind of
And I
like it was kind
yeah,
of
it's
like
not like
gaslighting, right? It was kind of
Yeah.
like
I kind of feel
gaslighting.
like I'm probably going to open a can of words on this, but I kind of feel like
Okay. The can.
you look
No,
back to the 19, you look back to the 1950s where the attitude of the politicians were that people with disabilities should live with families behind closed doors or in some kind of institution, won't be in the employment. They will very rarely be in the employment sector at all, if not just to volunteer or something.
Hmm.
And now we don't have these big institutions, which is why we have such a mental health issue on the streets, because they just said, "Here, go be free," you know.
Yeah.
And we don't have we do have group homes, but with the lack of funding and everything to United Way
Yeah.
and everything, they're shrinking. So most people on who should have who can't live on their own that should have supports are getting less and less and less of the
Yeah.
pie,
Yeah.
and those group homes are disappearing, or they're not being run properly to a dignified scale. And you're getting employed you're getting people like Doug Ford saying the quiet part out loud without realizing he's saying it out loud. The best thing you can do for a disabled person is give him a job when he knows, because his rich buddies are all developers and business owners, that they're not going to hire disabled people.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's
And
exactly what we
it's
said
so,
in BC on the phone call on the conversation was, like, in other words, you want more income, get a job.
Yeah. But like
and then you,
as I was saying, like when they say, get a job and all
I
these
had
wraparound supports, like I said, like they're just invalidating all these wraparound supports of like pensions and stuff. They're calling them back. So it's
Yes,
like, yeah, get a job and then we'll claw back your
yeah, we'll
pension.
claw back your CPP. Yeah,
Like everybody get a job and then we'll claw back your pension,
yeah,
and it's like that's
yeah.
why that's why that wraparound support word or the phrase just triggers me so much because it's like how dare you like they should have their mouth rinsed with soap every time they say it because it
but
just pisses me off,
but
like I
at
said.
the same time, the minister who's in charge of the MSDPR in BC says we'll always be there for persons with disabilities to support them. But meanwhile, you got another person saying, "Well, just get a job." But meanwhile, it's an option for
Yeah.
PWD to
I
actually opt into that. It
Yeah.
it
I
makes no sense.
I'm really frustrated with the Ontario system right now. I have had to reach out to my workers 3 times in the last 4 days. I've got no reply. Yes,
Oh,
they
I'm
sent
so sorry to hear
everybody
that.
on ODSP a $20 Giant Tiger voucher thing, like a free loaded card.
Wow,
Like, click
that's it.
below. Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow,
Like,
that's
I'm
not good.
grateful, but what am I going to buy? Cans of Campbell soup? Like,
Well,
I'm just,
yeah,
I'm at the point right now where I'm so frustrated because if I can't get the schooling to better jobs in Ontario, I'm
mhm.
Yeah.
screwed, because I don't think, even if my shoulder heals somewhat, that I'll ever be able to flip dishes or work for a moving company. This
Right.
shoulder has taken me not only off the sidelines, but it's taken me off the field completely.
Well,
Well,
that's like
well,
what
like,
happened to me. And I'm just going to quickly reflect on it. Like, and I'll summarize it. I injured myself from a company I worked at years ago, and repetitive work. I took it for granted that, oh, Brent, you could do it. You could keep doing this because I was used to doing that stuff. And all it took was one time, and I did things properly. I went to go and Ellen, I went to go and remove some garbage, and I figured, okay, I can do this. I didn't know, like from where I was standing, I didn't know how heavy it was. So I bent with my knees. You don't lift with your back, you bend with your knees. So I did that, but at eye level, I couldn't tell what was in that bag. So I went to go and lift up normally, and I arched my back by lifting it up. I got in trouble from our workers' compensation, but I proved the theory that I didn't know. And so they measured it, proved it 100%. Not my fault and the company's fault. Liability, yeah. Pain and suffering, yeah. Like I won, but I got pain and suffering. And at times when the weather changes, yeah, I feel it. I know.
mhm.
Like it's like it
Like,
reminds me saying, hey, I'm still here. Do you remember me? you know?
I've worked in a few restaurants, and I noticed that the garbage bags in Montana's got much heavier than they do at Swiss Chalet. I don't know whether it's because the waiters dump most of the damp food or drinks or whatever.
Liquid,
It's
liquid,
more
yeah.
the bags are heavier. Also, the
Hmm.
way the bins are set up, it's you have to lift the bin and chuck the bag in at the same time, and
Yep.
it's like the old dumpster bins
Yeah, you
with
got to
with the
throw
plastic
it.
lids.
Arch your
So
shoulder.
um, I noticed that doing the garbage detail at Montana's when I was there for a month or whatever, because I worked with Montana's before for a couple of years, and I thought I'd have no problem with it. But what a difference 20 years made! Like
Yes.
when I was at Montana's last, it was 2007 to
Hmm.
2008, and then they just laid everybody off at Christmas because they didn't need the staff.
Right.
Um, this time around, I was only there from July to August, and I noticed a difference in my stamina. I just couldn't. I couldn't do those 5 hour shift, take a 1 hour break, another 5 hour shift.
Yeah.
Same
Well,
next day, 5 hour shift, take a 1 hour break,
yeah,
time
and
5 hours shift. I
and
couldn't do it.
I did want to get back to, because I mean that again, that's what I've realized too with my injury, and also just aging with a disability.
Yeah.
Like it's a known fact that you age faster with a disability. Like
Yeah.
you just have more miles on your body, or you gain more miles on your body faster when automatically when you have a disability. So I kind of wanted to talk about that, and the position that you're in, Alan. Like, you know, I wanted to touch on, the difficulty you're having with cooking and cleaning and all that,
Well, it's
and
not just
how
that.
much of a help it would be, how much of a help it would
That's
be if governments
that's
would kind of res
that.
respect that, having a disability is hard, and
Yeah, I'm
you
trying to get it
require
to
a bit
focus.
more assistance.
I don't know if you can see that, but try to
It's
pull the shoe
it's
up.
blurred out.
That's what. That's 6 months of wearing a sneaker regularly. And if I
Okay.
buy cheap shoes from Walmart, they're dead in a month. So
Right.
Alan,
here's
Alan
a
was
lot of
showing
people are
his
like, a lot of people are
Alan was
like
showing his
saying to me,
shoes
they're
there,
like,
Arnell.
well, just go buy a pair of Skechers from Walmart. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you have no idea how quick I'll be out back at Walmart buying the same pair of
Yeah.
shoes.
I used
Like
to do
I
the same
tried
thing.
that route. I
Yeah.
tried that route. I tried the what was the name of the famous shoe shop that was like discount? It was a big shoe
Payless or something.
liquidation.
Payless.
Payless. I
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
tried the Payless route.
Yeah.
Never it, they never lasted past 2 months.
No, I was
They'd be
I
at
me
was the
too.
same
they'd be
thing.
at this.
Yeah.
So
What?
if I buy sneakers, I buy one pair a year generally. I'll try and keep this pair around as a pair of kick around shoes, but I need to buy Adidas or Nike,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're
and
expensive. Really.
I'm paying 85 to $120.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
almost that's over a month's worth of food right there, right? And
Yeah.
you can
my old
just
man
pay a
said
Harcourt
my old
yourself
man told me he
with
said
trust.
never buy a cheap pair of shoes or a cheap bag because if you're not in one, you're in the other.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember hearing
Uh,
that from the industry so many times, Alan, saying, well, here's a clothing voucher for you. You're wearing through shoes too fast. Why are you wearing through shoes too fast, Brent? I go, because it's my balance the way it is. No
Yeah.
fault of my own. Tell my feet. I remember telling a worker, tell my feet to behave and actually tell my feet don't have a disability because, I mean, shows, well, it's the way you're walking. Maybe you're walking wrong. I go, oh, okay. So it's a fault of my own that I'm walking
Gaslight
that
me,
way.
thanks.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I I
you know what?
I
I'm
told
done.
a worker I had a worker do this. You need to live within your means, and she starts
Yep. Yeah, I had to.
gaslighting me
Yeah.
over and over, and
Yeah.
being really vindictive. And I said, stick your gaslighting up your behind. I'm done with this shit.
Yeah, that's what I said
I'm
too.
tired.
Well,
Oh,
no.
I lost my marm. And she was like, I think the meeting's over. I've tried to be polite with you. I'm like, no, you haven't. You gaslighted me for an hour and a half. If I need this kind of abuse, I'll talk to my brother-in-law. Like,
Yeah. And this is where I wanted to get to the point that, I
see, that's
mean,
it. I have a big mouth.
yeah.
I'm a smartass. I'm Welsh, and I don't mind pissing off a bureaucrat. I probably won't be face to face with much.
Yes.
So if they climb up my behind and try and gaslight me, I go
Yep.
right over them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, exactly.
Well, and I wanted
You
to
don't need
like
that abuse from
I
the
wanted to stress the point too. I mean, the way our disability supports are like in BC and all across Canada. Like you yourself, Alan, you're in Ontario, but all across Canada, it's the same thing. It's like they treat it like it's an optional thing. It's like,
yeah.
well, we're helping you, but it's kind of optional.
Yeah, you should be
It's
grateful
just
that
like
you're.
charity. They don't treat it like they treat it like charity. It's not like a mandated thing. It should be a mandated thing,
It
right?
should
I
be a
mean,
pension. It should be back as a pension like they
it should
used
be
to be.
back as a pension because it's a mandated required responsibility that the government is
Take care of citizens.
mandated. I have to say that 10 times over, required mandated to look after people with
I went.
disabilities, and yet they treat it
I
like it's an optional charity thing.
I don't know if it was Mike Harris or if it was Doug Ford. I think it was Doug Ford did it, but I know Mike Harris said that when he was in power, he wanted to combine ODSP and OW into one, which meant it was a one size fit all, same amount for everybody, whether you were disabled or not. It didn't go through, but I know that a lot. I think he probably got bombarded with a lot of families saying, "What the hell?" because it didn't get through. But I know Doug Ford's mentioned stuff about merging everything because that's what the conservatives do. They want to cut
Yeah.
corners so their buddies can have alcohol and sobies. I mean, like,
Speaking on that topic, though, Ellen, what is your view about the Canada Disability Benefit? Where do
I
you
think it's
see that going? Like,
smoke
do
and
you see
mirrors.
that it's all smoke and mirrors? Do you
I have
see?
two words: smoke mirrors.
Yeah,
What it was you have a government that wanted to look like they were the hero in the
yeah.
story, and they used the whole thing was just a gaslight. Yeah, you know what? We might get a benefit, but is $6.60 really going to help anybody?
Yeah.
Really, like
Yeah.
if and that's if quote if you're eligible for it,
That's maximum
and it's
dollars too.
and it's up to 200 a month.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
maximum
They
dollars.
could
Yeah.
Yeah.
they could say, hey, Alan, you approved for the disability ban. Here's $5 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they
And that's
and
why,
I can't.
yeah, and
So
that's
yeah,
why we need
I
the a livable income and brought to a standard of income. There's a lots of different bills that are floating out there, like a GLBI. There's call for that. There's call for a basic income of some other sorts. Like there's so many variations. But the governments, I mean, provincial governments, I think they say they were waiting on the federal government and all these meetings.
well, what I'll say is this: I don't
Yeah,
agree with everything MJ says. We can agree to disagree on some things, but I think in the essential thing, I think he's right. Streamline the shit out of everything, make it federal, and have one. No more child tax benefit because it's just a guaranteed basic income, and just cut away the fat and get rid of a lot of the red tape and just have one streamlined service. And like, there's ways to get around it. Like they can say to the provinces, you're not going to be in the social service business anymore. We're gonna give you a cash infusion for something else, right? There could
Mhm.
be a cash transfer that goes to business and economics and AI or whatever. But
right.
you're not in the ODSP OW Ontario Works business anymore. Everybody's going to be on one basic income right down the middle. I
Well,
think
here's the other part too, Ellen, is like when you're disabled in a province, they say, oh, you can't leave the province to go to another province to live. Well, you're still disabled. Oh, you have to apply at another province. You have to be there for three
yeah.
months in order to apply. Really? Like that's so old school. Like you're disabled, you're disabled. I mean, it should follow you where you are in the
Here's the
country.
thing: we're living in a modern world with policies that were designed in the 1970s when people with disabilities were still living in with their families or in group homes or in
Right.
institutions, and the ideology is still 1970,
Yeah.
1950,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
1960, 1980,
Totally.
maybe 1980.
1,000%.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
No, it's
really
true.
like think about it. In 1995 ODS disability benefits was 930 a month when I was still living at my folks' house.
Wow.
Like what's it gone up to now? 13? That was 30 years ago. It's
Yeah.
gone up by $300 in 30 years.
Yeah.
It's terrible, and the buying power, it just erodes away,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
the
we're
buying
left
powers.
with
I
nothing.
think I had more buying power when I was getting 900 a month from
Do you
ODSP
remember?
than I did.
Do you remember Bill Vandersdam, Brent?
Yep, Shazam. Yep.
Yeah, and I could be a little bit wrong on the numbers, but I think I'm correct. I looked up the disability numbers when he was premier, and when was that? That was in 1985, wasn't it?
Oh, something like
It
that.
was
Yeah, yeah,
1985. I
yeah.
looked up the support numbers. 1985.
That was before Expo '86. Yes. What year?
Yeah, people with disabilities got a monthly pension, a disability pension, $1985. Remember, this is $1985, and it was $1,500 in 1985. $1,500 a month.
Wow.
That
Yeah,
was guaranteed, and like now we're just like you have to beg for like almost for that. Like we're getting that now in 2024 dollars, right?
Yeah.
In BC, it's
Right.
$1,500 now. Well,
1483.
we
I
were
tell you
getting
what
that
mine is.
in 1985.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
1985. You
I
know?
know, and you know what? You could get a lot more value for your dollar back then. And
Well, of course.
I always tell the story of when I was just a youth. I mean, I would go to this corner store. My mom would send me up, and I don't know why she loved ginger ale. I'm just or no ginger beer. So she sent me up to the store to go and get a can of ginger beer and a small bag of chips. And she goes, "Can you get me a Kit Kat?" I'm like, "Oh, come on, mom." She loved her Kit Kats. I don't know if she just loved them. So I would go
You
there
sucker
and
for this.
it'd be a dollar.
I'm still mad about the peppermint patty. I'm
Yep,
like,
yep.
what the
But
hell happened?
a dollar
You
five,
have to take the peppermint patty out of the mud. Oh,
20,
don't get
28
me started.
28-gram size little chip bag, okay, a Kit Kat, and a small can of ginger beer, or you could get the little bottle, right? Either or. It was a dollar five, and there was no tax, just 5 cent deposit. So I made an agreement with them. Rather than running back and forth, and they said, "Well, next time when you do your paper route, just bring the can or the bottle back and just throw a dollar bill." That's right, we had dollar bills back then, everyone. Dollar paper bills. We didn't have a loonie or a toonie. We had paper bills. And so I put a dollar on the counter and they said, "Okay, as long as you promise to bring that can or bottle back." I said, "No problem." And when if we're busy, just throw it in our little we have a room, a storage room. I said, "Okay." And just throw it there with all the other bottles and cans. I said, "Fine." So that was perfect. Now you can't even buy one of those items for a dollar, except for Dollarama. You can't. I mean, you can. I mean, but you just tail attack. But you can get a chocolate bar under a dollar, but not for that tiny price of 35 cents for a chocolate bar. Actually, it
And
was 25
the
cents.
chocolate
Sorry.
bars were like this size now.
Yeah, she was 25
Oh
cents for
yeah,
a
the
chocolate.
Uh,
shrunk. The Snickers has shrunk.
I
yeah.
know they
Explain
have.
that to me.
Yeah,
Explain how the Snickers has shrunk.
there's no room for a big Snickers anymore, Ellen. They're small
I remember
Snickers.
when those Mr. Bigs, they were like
Yes,
this.
they
They
were
were
huge.
huge. And now they're like, maybe like this now. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I was joking around with my friend and I took a photograph of this big giant Toblerone. It was at Christmas. It was like one of the big ones. And then they had the small one. And I took a picture and then I put 1995. And then I put 2023. And I put the little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
true.
or we were kids and we would play pinball machines and our games inside the store, and they'd have a vegetable stand or a fruit stand right behind. The kids would be grabbing it. Hey, they've got to be banging on the window. Hey, what are you kids doing? They'd
Yeah.
be grabbing some produce, and then he'd be banging. No, put that back, and they'd be busy playing all their games and not doing
No,
their
I used to
homework.
love the corner stores because they had all the like pinball machines
Yeah,
and yeah, things like
it was
that.
great. It was fun
Yeah.
times, right? But
We are
yeah,
at the end of the episode already, Brent. So we're already
wow.
time for closing comments. Gone
Yeah,
fast.
closing comments already. I'll have to have you back on again very soon, Alan. For
I
sure.
I
We'll
don't
call.
I don't know what the answer is. My closing comment is I don't know what the answer is to justice for people with disabilities because that fall was not my fault, whether it was in daylight or nighttime. and I can't even get a lawyer to take my case. And I've tried 6, and they've all said it's got merit. Oh, it's not viable.
Yeah, we should say we did try to get somebody on the podcast with you that
We
was a
did.
lawyer, actually.
That's a
We tried, but we just couldn't we couldn't do it.
And if the person does reach out to me, Neil, I will let you know, and we'll have
Yeah.
Ellen back
Yeah,
on.
we'll try to have get a lawyer on it, but we just
Yeah,
weren't able to
part
swing
time,
it in time for your
part,
episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
part two.
and if not for some reason that I can't get that a lawyer on to talk with you, Alan, I will definitely have you back on very shortly again, and we'll follow up with the progress of your injury that's ongoing. Everyone listening to the podcast today, Alan took a bad fall in his community. He's seeking lawyer advice on what can go forward
It
with
was at
his.
the ferry terminal, we should say.
Yes,
Ferry
at the
terminal.
freight terminal, and
Yeah.
he's at loose ends. Nobody wants to deal with his injury. So if you
Well, the lawyers don't think that they can harness the cost of what it would take to sue over time, over a 5 year period, to get a what did the lawyer David say? He said it would take me 3 to 5 years, and I don't think I would get any financial compensation back to even cover my time, let alone to get you any compensation.
oh my God,
Because he said the way the lawyers are and the insurance is, they don't care that you were disabled. They'll probably use it against you.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you're going to be stressed out for 5 years for nothing.
Yeah.
well, well, we'd like
And
to
this is
see.
the real. I want to do a video on my story. I got to see if I can find someone that can videotape it for me while I'm
Hmm.
doing it, because trying to hold the camera and cue up the. Plus, what I want to do is I want to maybe film it in two sections, and then in between have photos of the, where the fall was. And
Right.
I don't know how to do that
Yeah,
on my own.
getting
So
other lawyers' opinions about it would be really helpful for you. And I'm really sorry that you took a bad fall, Ellen. And I mean, if I was there, I would stop everything and actually come and help you. I wouldn't even second guess. So shame on the government for actually not stepping up and actually taking your situation
well,
seriously.
I'm now in the point that I've got one last thing that might get me out of being in poverty, and that's one of these private school jobs courses that
Hmm.
that can earn me 35 to 40K a year, which means I don't have to rely on Doug Ford ever again,
Yeah.
right? And it would put me in a I would be like a service worker in like either a shelter or a crisis center or something like that. A safe injection site. That's basically what jobs it covers. But that's my only beef, because I do not see me being able to survive on 1,500 a month.
No.
It's not even that. It's 1444 for my rent, and my
Well,
rent just went up.
and that's my closing comment is that again is that provincial support for people with disabilities should not be an optional charity driven thing. And right now, all across the country, it's a charity driven optional thing. Like maybe we'll support people with maybe
Well,
we
it's not
will.
just that. And then as soon as you tell someone that you're facing hardship, they're like, "You should be grateful."
Yeah.
Right.
How about you should go over there and F off in the town of F off over there. It's just a couple blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of hearing this. Like that lady that lives in my building called me a woke snowflake for
Yeah.
not healing my shoulder without medication. I'm like,
Oh, great.
I ran into her and I was putting my garbage out, minding my own business, and I said, I really think for your studio, it's best if you start advertising, looking for a photographer on one of the Facebook photography groups, because I don't think I'm going to be doing it anymore. I
Hmm.
said that just so because I didn't really want to get into the personal reasons, but I said, look at my arm in a sling. I, I can barely feed myself. So you should find another photographer. There's tons out there. There are photographers looking to make to build some portfolio. I can't. And she said, that's not my problem. And she basically spit on me and called me a woke snowflake.
Oh,
So I was like, and then the next morning at 8 a.m., she's banging on my door. I need help getting to the promenade to get set up. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm helping you.
Yeah. Well,
Not.
that's a whole other podcast though.
yeah, yeah.
That's called karma. Disability slash karma.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
my ending comments on the whole scenario here of what you've gone through, Ellen, is again the support system to help people with disabilities needs to be modernized. The government needs to focus on listening to people with lived experience. They need to do the right thing. They need to get rid of this legislative garbage. It's all garbage that's thrown in there.
Mhm.
It's We talked about this before, Neil. It's all stuff that's actually thrown right into legislation. It could be deleted right
Yeah.
away and completely like the
but the
income
language needs to be
left there,
changed.
but then modernized and put up to
Well,
a livable
and
level.
again, you and I were talking the other day. Like we talk about legislative poverty, but in reality, it's regulated poverty, right?
Regulations.
Regulated because it's all in regulation. It's all in
Yeah,
regulation, which means if the governments all across Canada really wanted to, if the provincial governments across Canada really wanted to, they could change it within the hour, like with
yeah.
under an hour.
Or they could delete it.
They
Yeah,
could just do a wholesale change everything because it's all regulation.
yeah.
None of it is legislation. It's all in the regulations.
Well, they love to copy and paste stuff anyway.
Mhm.
So all they do is have to copy the person's file
Well,
onto
what I'm saying is
and then
we live
delete
in
the other
20,
stuff and pop it back on again and done.
we
Yeah.
live in 2024, but we still have supports that don't go past 1995
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
across the board. And
Bingo. You
that's the
nailed it.
problem. And it's not just us saying it. We have advocates that don't have disabilities that are saying,
Yes.
like, we're saying the supports are X and we're living in Y and Z, and
And
You know how
and
what the
many?
hell?
that's why
Yeah.
I like to say it's Mike Harcourt's fault because he was in it was in
Yes.
1994-ish when
100%.
he did all of the clawback crap of like cheats, varmints, and deadbeats.
Yes.
Everybody on welfare is cheats, varmints, and that's the mindset we're talking about, Ellen, is that mindset from 1994 has been carried across for 30 years. That same mindset of you
Yep.
cheats, varmints, and deadbeats.
Yep.
You deserve your poverty because you're cheats, varmints, and deadbeats, and that's the mindset.
Yeah, we don't care if you got injured either.
Yeah,
One thing I got to do is I got to try and find someone in the community that can maybe try and run a GoFund me for me, because when I try and do it, my family just gets all in an uproar and they make me feel guilty for it. So for me to run
Oh,
my own GoFundMe is a real shit show, and I'm
yeah,
hoping maybe someone will do a GoFundMe. I need to be able to move to Belleville and
right.
get set up, and it's going to cost me at least $2,000 to do it because I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
have to hire a moving company to do
Yes.
it. I can't even pack a sandwich together, let alone a bunch of cardboard boxes. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
um, I know I got to move soon because the people in this building, they're just getting they don't the
It's
office doesn't care. I called the police about that woman harassing me to my building. And they said, "You got no proof. We're not going to do anything. Suck
mhm.
it up, buddy."
If anyone listening to the podcast today would love to help Alan out setting up a GoFundMe, please reach out to Neil and or myself, and we
Yeah,
will definitely see what we can do to get that going. And we can get you the Alan's his particulars with Alan's
yeah.
permission, of course.
And
And
and and
so,
Well,
we do know that the mutual aid is a tricky thing because
it's a
yes,
long,
some people
it's
get
a,
yeah,
thrown under the
it's
bus for
a,
that, right? But
yeah,
well, Jen Evans has, she's got a lot on her plate, and for her to try and raise, like, I've asked, I think my highest I've ever asked for on mutual aid is the 250 I'm trying to get because I need it for OT and so I can swim, which helps me with my shoulder. I need a new pair of running shoes and I can't buy a cheap pair, so that's part of it. So, but I mean that's nothing compared to what I've seen Jen trying to raise. I think she's been trying to raise people's rent for people and
I've seen a
stuff.
lot of that. I've seen a lot of
So,
requests for rent evictions. And again, this
so
falls on the government across Canada. Again, if is that anyone that's raising, trying to help with the mutual aids. I mean, again, government, like really, like people are needing help. This is a real life, like real time situations that are happening to people in Canada. Government, you need to step up to the plate. And I don't care which jurisdiction it is, province against federal. Oh, the feds are not doing it. The provinces are not doing it. You know what? Come
Yeah.
together,
they're
work together.
nickel and diming us. That's
And
what
it's
the
because
problem
it's
is.
because it's because people with disability is optional. It's
Exactly.
optional. It's optional support. It's the wraparound support crap. It's that
Yep.
trigger word of wraparound support. Like,
Yep.
look at our wraparound support. It's just all, but it's a bunch of crap.
Yep. And
Like,
then the
walk the
government
walk,
says,
talk the talk. Don't
yeah, and then
just
the
like,
government says, oh well, if they need help, they can just go and request mutual aid, or they can go ask a neighbor to go, hey, do you have some sugar? Hey, you got some eggs? I mean, if
yeah,
they say, oh, this is great, we don't have to do anything. Well,
yeah,
actually, you do have to do something. You got to take care of
I'm actually pretty grateful. The people on some of the Facebook groups have been actually pretty stellar. Someone gave me $100 worth of Metro card gift cards at
Oh wow,
Metro.
that's great.
So like, and people have bought me like a pizza or a sub or something. So I've been pretty lucky in that way. But like I've eaten through my entire income tax. I've eaten through all my climate and work what do they call it, workman benefit. All those have just they've all gone to like
Yeah.
ready-made meals. Like it's
Well, yeah,
just
it
I
doesn't
just
take long. It doesn't take
hmm
long. I mean, it seems like a lot of
like
money at first, but by the time you go to the
I bet
store,
I've spent 2 grand on food since
yeah.
June 14th.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly. I mean,
yeah,
like we get these 5 week months, and I tell you, like we got another month to go, and it's like, wow, it's hard, right?
yeah.
And then you get the government, well, live within your means, live within. Oh, it's like, oh,
Oh yeah, I
go
had a
get a job,
worker
or the other day on the radio, go if you want more money, just get a job, right? I mean, really,
or sell
I
your
had a job.
valuables,
Get a job
sell
and then
your
we'll
val
claw back your pension.
Yeah,
Get a
yeah,
job and we'll
or
claw back your pension.
go sell
yeah,
your valuables.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
gee,
Go
thanks.
sell,
So I'll take
sell yourself.
my $500 PlayStation, the only thing that gives me any mental health break, and I'll take it to a pawn shop and get $50. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, and so again,
how
it's
about,
the way the
I want to
system,
say to these ladies, how about you take your valuables and sell them?
or maybe the ones at the government offices when they say
How about
things.
we start clawing back your housing allowance?
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. Or maybe they could go and say, could they go and sell their boss? Hmm.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See what happens on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I'm definitely going to have you back on really soon, Alan. We're going to talk about disability rates and kind of where we left off. That'll be a neat little segment, and we can rant about
Uh,
all these clawbacks and everything else. I think everyone will find it very interesting.
I thought, yeah, I thought the disability and injury was one that had to be done though, which is
Yes,
Yeah.
good
oh,
No,
most
for sure.
definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there are people that are get far more hurt than I did,
Right.
and they just got
Right.
thrown under the bus, and the only hope is that they have some kind of family or whatever. Like they told me, if I couldn't feed myself at out of pocket expense, I could stay at a long term care home while my shoulder was healing at what like 1,700 a month or something. I'm like,
Mm.
how is that helping me? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna leave me in a room for 12 hours before you come and check on me? Then I'm gonna get
Oh,
something
wow.
that resembles a mushy chicken dinner I could have bought at
Oh,
McCain's at Metro for $2. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, inflation 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how about one of the party man dinners? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's right up there with craft dinner and hot dogs.
Oh, yeah, there we
I,
go.
I, I've had to eat
And some
hot
of the
dogs
craft
4 days in a
boxes are
row.
getting smaller now too. The prices go up smaller.
The
Before we sign
point
off, though,
is,
I want to promote the e-petition,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
E5047. We're actually over 300 signatures now.
325 the last time I checked. It was
Yeah,
325.
325. So
Yeah.
175 to go, folks. So
Yeah.
let's get it up to
I'm
500.
pretty sure I signed it. I think I did.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
everybody, if you just Google, you can just Google petition E5047. Just Google it. It'll bring you right to the page. Petition E5047. I'll also when this goes off air, I'll put the link at the bottom of the video on in the description as well,
sounds great.
and you can click directly there. But yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and stay tuned to our next episode. It will be spicy. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.